This is Miss Emerson's 6th grade book talk with Adam, Maddy, Caitlyn, and Taylor, and we're reading Code Talker. The first question, why did the white people think that Navajo's tradition was bad? Or were they seen as a threat?
The white people were seen as a threat because they didn't understand their language, and since there was more English than the Navajo's language, that means they need to learn to be able to communicate, and like, especially because the World War II is going on, the war needed the Navajos in there, so they needed to learn how to communicate and talk to other people to see what's going on.
I think they were also seen as a threat because, like, maybe they all wanted equality, and they were like a culture that was totally different, and they had no idea what they were saying because of their language, and they just want everything to be the same with no threats.
Well, one question I had was, why didn't the white people ever think like the Navajos could help them? They didn't think of that until like after the fact, after they punished them and everything.
I think the white people thought the Navajos were just worthless because they couldn't speak, and they really weren't worthless. All they needed to do was be taught English, and they could be taught. It wasn't that hard.
They probably thought their culture was different and weird, so they just didn't want anything to do with it.
I think like the fact that they didn't have like the proper education, that they were different and they, I don't know.
Okay, well, one question I had was, what was the significance of all the Navajo kids wearing their family jewelry and dressing up in their nicest clothes just for some boarding school?
I think it's because...
Shut up. It's not just a boarding school. They're sending their children away to go get an education to, like,
But what was the significance of wearing the jewelry if they just took
because
it away?
that's the last time they're going to see them, pretty much. They're going to
But if
be
they
away.
just took it away from them?
You're ending on a good note.
Because it would
Because
be part of their culture that they wanted to take it away from them. They wouldn't have them to be anything like they were. They wouldn't be like completely like English and American.
Okay, I got this from...
the book actually says something about that.
Okay, well,
Oh my
guys,
God.
this we find that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, my second question was, is World War II affecting the Navajos? If so, how and why?
I got it. Here. It says, I knew she had adorned herself with all of these things for me. She wanted me to have this image of her to keep in my mind, to be with me when I was far from home.
That's what he was talking
It's like a discussion period. My question was, is World War II affecting the Navajos? If so, how?
Do you have another question you'd like to touch on, or? Okay, do you have one?
I think it's making them more popular.
The one thing I did...
Aren't they
Because they're
giving
helping
something?
them.
Yeah, they're helping.
Yeah, because their hunting skills, I think they're used to it. Because of how they survive, they don't like have like crops to grow. They just go out and hunt.
So instead of people taking away their culture, they're like enhancing it.
Yeah, and I think they're used to it because
They're adapting to it.
yeah, in the book they said they could go like 3 or 4 days without food. And they're like, yeah, they're adapting to it.
My next question was like, after, since the part I read in the book was, after the Navajos have like helped them, will they gain more freedom from the white people? Or more like acceptance?
I think they will because since they've learned English, like some of the students have already gained acceptance.
But I mean, it's only like the kids that are learning English, not the, well, I mean, I guess they would like.
I mean, since they're helping
children.
them in the war, then they're giving them help. So I mean, they can't just not accept them. Because if they do, they'll just back out.
What about
They have to be somewhat friendly to them, or else they're not going to help
I
them.
don't know how to say
Yeah, they won't have respect.
I don't even...
What's your...
I actually have a question for Maddy. What's your favorite part of the book so far?
I think learning about the Navajos' culture and how they contribute to the war.
Good answer.
Do you have a second question?
What is the most important tradition to the Navajo people and why?
I think it's more family and like tradition because they want to like impress their family and
I just think it's loyalty.
Nah, it's nature.
I think it's loyalty. They're loyal to like to nature and their family.
I just said the nature.
But I'm just saying like every aspect, not just to the trees.
Yeah,
All the
there's-
white people are like polluting the environment and whatnot. These guys want to keep their homeland.
And they have.
Well, no, the white people wanted to take their land away.
The reservation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Did you ask yourself a question? Okay, I'll ask one. Why does the setting seem so important? Like the setting of the book.
because no one would really care if it was like modern.
Liked the church being around because those people.
Yeah, but like where they are, like.
Now.
I think even like.
Oh, like not the time period.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think like the difference between like, there's parts in there when the Navajos are like on the reservation and other parts where the Navajos are in actually like English schools. I don't know, I think it's important to show like the differences between the two, and you can show comparisons.
I think the boarding school is also more depressing how the author described it. So I think that's important because it shows how the Navajos don't.
Because they get like abused every time they say something wrong or talk in their own language. They don't even give them like free high school. So I don't think it's fair. But
It's my turn for a question. Based on what we've read, how do you think the book is going to end?
I think it'll end on a good note where the Navajos are freed and they can end up like learning their own language, and the white people and English people learn their ways of life and their culture. Because so they both like talk to each other.
I think the white people will like accept them at the end, like fully. Like right now they're just trying to like
Because it's
get used to
different.
that.
Yeah, it's different. They don't like it.
I don't know, I think that, I mean, I can just see what's gonna happen, or not, I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's a possibility that maybe the white people are just gonna use the Navajos and
Okay, so.
just return them and
Okay, so I have one main.
treat them how they were before they went into the army and the
We've
war.
already had some words.
the Navajos could also go against them somehow and like start killing the white people because of anger. Okay, what about like
I like what
this part,
That's,
the
this is
passage?
why I brought
Oh,
this up. Because
I have one.
Or why you disagree.
I said on the first page, the second paragraph, that
it's not.
I'll read it.
It's not her disability. I don't want to get that.
That's like being rooted blood. No, just say.
Okay, it says,
Uh,
the moment I dreaded had arrived. I stood and looked towards the hills. I could
Well,
run
it's
up there
like
and hide, but I did not do so, for I had always obeyed my mother, whose love for me was as certain as the furnace of
Sacred. It's sacred.
sacred earth
because
beneath my moccasins.
she's always trying to.
However, I did drag my feet as I came out from behind our hogan, just to see what I knew I would see. There stood my tall, beautiful mother. Her thick black hair was tied up into a bun. She was dressed in her finest clothing, a new silky blue blouse and a blue
And
pleated
that's why it's hard.
skirt decorated with bands of gold ribbon.
She is. It's like.
On her
you know,
feet were soft calf high moccasins, and she wore all her silver and turquoise jewelry. Her squash blossom necklace, her bracelets, her concha belt, her earrings. I knew she had adorned herself with all of these things for me. She wanted me to have this image of her to keep in my mind, to be with me when I was far from home. And I said that it paints a picture in your head of what these people were like, how they look, dress, speak. It has rich details, so you know exactly what the characters are right away when the books begin, so you can know what they look like as the story goes on.
I think it's also important, that paragraph, because it shows how different they are, like their culture and how they dress and what they do from the white people.
What do you think the author like thought about, or was like, thought about what was going on in his mind when he wrote this book?
I think he wanted to let readers aware of, I mean, I think this was like Adam said, like a couple years, like several years ago, because it's obviously not like that now, but they wanted us to be aware of what has happened, or like what life could have been.
I don't know, I kind of think that he's trying to show us, like, the inequality, like, that's in our world now. Like, it's there back then and it's here now, like, with racism and all that. So it's kind of indirectly, like, informing us on inequality and differences in cultures.
I think it's important to learn about history because, so like we don't have a repeat of what happened in the past. Like we don't want more racism. We don't want like history to repeat itself.
Adam, if this story were made into a movie, how would you cast the characters?
Well, I think it's very important to have the correct ethnicity for these characters. So you wouldn't want a white person playing the mom, you know, like they were saying, and you know.
Okay.
Maddie, did you have a passage from the book?
Yeah, I did. It was on page 27. It's the last paragraph.
Stanza what?
The last paragraph on the page.
That's stanza one.
So I held on to my sacred language while learning the words and the ways of the whites, but I had no idea, even in my wildest dreams, that the very language those Bilagana teachers tried to erase, the way you wipe words from a blackboard, would one day be needed by important men. I think
White
that's
men,
like
important white men.
important white men. Sorry. I think that passage is important because it says like the turning point that's coming in the book and what's going to happen later on in the book. It also explains what they're like, how they're abusing them, and the most important part of the book.
I got a question for Taylor. Who is your favorite character and why?
I think my favorite character would be the main character because
What's her name?
it's a guy. Because his
I always pictured her as a girl.
Your question just backfired.
No, it didn't. I
because he
it
had
was a
like
girl.
he was so determined and motivated to like stick with what the white people were trying to teach them while trying to like maintain his culture, and he always wanted to like stick up for his culture and fight back.
Yeah, it's like a personal experience. You can hear it like firsthand.
She was talking about it.
So he's loyal, like you said before.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question for Maddie. How do you feel about the story now compared to when we first started reading it?
I think, like, in the beginning of the book, he was taken away from his home and he was really sad. And I think throughout the book, he's going to learn that all of the things that he went through, all of his struggles, are going to help him in the future.
My favorite part of the book so far, I would say, is hearing about like how the white people treated them when they first went to boarding school. I don't think it's like necessary for them to treat them badly.
But they've also gained respect for them as
Yeah.
the book is going on.
They've learned a certain things that are important, but I just think it's fair.
She says somewhere in this chapter that one of her children died.
Caitlyn Gibbs or whatever.
Stop the video.
Africa, where one of my children
Okay.
I don't.
The end.
I screenshotted this.
How long does it say on there?
13 minutes.
Okay. Adam, you didn't stop it.